what if I tried to write something that was about me, not just about feelings and about English, but me, not as a human being, but me as a Singaporean. But then I faced this problem where I had no idea what that meant. I wanted to have my own voice. I mean, that's something that has been very strong, a very strong part of my creative work. But what did that mean? This was a big issue because I basically felt very westernized. Being Peranakan, I didn't grow up with Chinese at all. I can't speak Chinese even to this day, you know. But then I could speak some Malay, like to my grandmother, but I'm not Malay, you know. So, and I'm not Caucasian, I'm not English, but I speak English, you know. So this was a big confusion for me. And so I wrote the song, which was about things that I knew, things that I could see, and that were all around me, and things that I liked, which was food. I love my Singapore food, and I felt that food identified me and us as a people, at least in a way that was very palpable. And fried rice is my favorite thing. So I wrote the song called Fried Rice Paradise. It was written back then, you know, a lot of people think that I wrote it recently, but it was written in 1974. It appeared on my first album as a kind of a Singapore statement, just one song in the whole album. The disappointing thing for me was that when the album came out, the song got banned. I used Singlish in the song because I thought that's the way we speak. I tried to be Singaporean, but no, it's not good. Nobody is, you know, they don't like me they don't want anybody to feel Singaporean. That's what I felt, you see. So I abandoned the idea for a long time. But then I went to the UK to study, and when I went to an art school. So what happens in an art school, you put someone like me, I start making music and not going to school. And so I formed a band. By 1979, I had written a whole lot of songs. I sent these songs to a publisher, and they heard it, and they gave me an appointment. They were interested in my songs. He told me that the most interesting thing about me was that I was Asian, but it didn't reflect in my music. Why not? And so I went away with this new determination to revive the idea of, you know, finding myself and myself being Asian, Singaporean, Peranakan, Chinese, whatever you want to say. Try to put that into my music. 10 years later, came out with this album about Singapore. This is inspired by the man in London who told me, do this thing with your own voice. But nobody was interested. Singapore still at that point was totally not interested about Singapore, being Singaporean. In 1988, I felt that Singapore was ready for a Singaporean work again. But I didn't do an album, but I did a musical called Beauty World. And this musical was a huge success, it was a Singaporean musical using Singlish and Singapore songs inside, and the audience lapped it up. And I felt, wow, for the first time, the audience may be ready for something Singaporean, right? My late mother, she passed away last year. She was a seminal force in my life. But my mother supported me all the way. She recognized something in me, and she always tried to back me up and ask my father, give me another chance. And you know, at first she used to say, oh, he'll grow out of it. But luckily I didn't, or unfortunately I didn't. A lot of people say I take after her. She's very sociable, she likes to entertain, you know. She loves around a dining table, she'll be the one telling jokes, you know, and all of that. So, yeah, so, I mean, I am what I am largely because of her. Anything that breaks you or hurts you or affects you in such a way creates beautiful songs. My sister passed away in 1984, tragically through a car accident. And yeah, it took me a few years to write a song for her. Yeah, 4 years later I was able to come up with this song for her. I mean, that's how difficult it was for me to write anything for her. You know, you do suppress feelings, and when they come up, you tend to push them aside or you don't want to deal with them. Taking sunlight to shady places, such a lonely thing to do. Stealing shadows, leave no traces, not a recollection of you. I break reflections by dancing in them, forming images brand new, losing old ones, all forgotten, not a recollection of you. That's sad. I would say that along the way, along my career, all the work that I had done, all of them are part of my search. I think maybe I'm still searching, maybe less so than before, but all my works were explorations. No simple way to do a Singaporean thing. I only can use the things that I know and I see, but I think that was the answer.
Let's begin. Like that? Alright, no, start. So this is my head chef in Tokyo, and this is Kenji Kawasaki. Been here since I was a kid. 2 years old. My parents put the fresh sashimi in my mouth, and the memory of taste is so important. And you can see like this amazing fresh fish here. This is something that has really helped me to develop new flavors. The Janice Wong logo. So like I said, it's really a dream come true to do this in Shinjuku Station in Tokyo, and looking forward to a lot more new shops coming up. Send it this way. Ready, going in.
Perfection and imperfection, imperfection and perfection. I've decided that as the title of my book. I think this for me was something that really resonates with my own philosophy, my thinking. And I have been striving for perfection ever since I started. Everything must be perfect, the cube of apple, the way the flower is being placed. At a certain point, it doesn't matter anymore. You know, it might look very beautiful, but is that inch of an apple slice going to change the way you think of my food? No. So I started this whole entire new concept of celebrating the imperfection. And I think that for me was really one very powerful thing where I want to, you know, stop this nonsense of striving for perfection. My main focus is always on taste. We focus on the flavor, keeping its purity. What's the texture? Is the texture delicious? Does it have enough balance? I don't really care about the plating. It is what your eyes see first. It is important, but not the most important. So if you think this philosophy, you are able to actually create a lot of dishes that people can resonate with, they can connect, and you go, oh, this brought me back to my childhood memory. So I designed a dish just recently, about 650 plates of them in Jeju Island. You know when you do a festival like this, there's Mingsai there, there's Morimoto, he's doing ramen, I'm doing this dish. I did orange and cream, but I really took all the ingredients of Korea and I just made a dish based on no reference. But it connected with somebody's memory, so many people's memory, and they queued up for the dessert and they basically could connect with it. So it's something magical about this design, this philosophy. When you focus on the flavor, the magic will happen. You know, when I started out 2 a.m. Lab in 2011, it's actually 4 years after 2 a.m. Dessert Bar Singapore. You know, the usual route would be to basically open up a franchise, to actually go forward and open more branches. But I decided to put all my resources back into creativity, not to recreate, but to create. And so everything for me is always a canvas, a blank canvas. Creativity comes from always a piece of paper and a pen. You can take nothing and you can make something out of it. Many people always think you need a lot of things to get inspiration. I think yes, you can, but sometimes you don't see the things that are just around you that is so inspiring. You just really need to look deeper. And I just find that inspiration in the simplicity of life. My perception is always being challenged. I have no one above me to say, you're not doing this right, you're doing this wrong. It's like saying you are your worst and your best competitor. For me, I had to go back into the books and think, okay, think again. Am I doing everything right? Can I do more? But the one most important thing is always to be happy. The dessert is actually one of my most signature desserts. I would say also something I'm really happy about. It took a long time to do it, but something that you design it from scratch. If I give you an apple and an orange and make a dessert, and with no reference, what do? No reference is something that I've been trying to advocate, educate, and also basically share with the world. And that is really taking just raw ingredients and making new recipes. This is our future. This is one thing that when I believe these are gifts, I want to share back to the world. And I always thought of myself as a vessel. Never worked just for myself, always for the people. And I love doing what I do. So if I make a good cup of coffee, if I make a really amazing dessert and people get so much satisfaction from it, I feel very happy. I think for me, I love photography. I've actually started that before cooking. I used to go to Vietnam, Cambodia, I would shoot people, I would just shoot life. Celebrating life, and food and everything, colors. So photography is very close to what I do as well. It's also taking moments and celebrating it, but it's a memory for life.
Thisが創作の醍醐味やったんか。知らんかった。
When I was actually a boy, right, I never thought I could be a filmmaker because there was no industry in Singapore. And I used to love just going to the theatre and look at those big canvas paintings. And because I could draw, maybe when I grow up, I'm going to do those canvas paintings. They don't exist anymore, right? I did a lot of drawings. I did comics because I loved Spider-Man as a kid, the Marvel Universe. And my mom too, you know, enjoyed reading comics. And sometimes I'd dig the cupboards for old comics. And actually that's how I discovered her camera, because I was looking for her old comics. At the time I had these G.I. Joes with 21 points of articulation, and I would literally just film the G.I. Joe and make them run around and beat up my sister's Ken doll, or, you know, run away with Barbie. And it was really, really fun, because when you showed this to the adults, they would say, how did you make it? How did you make these dolls come to life? In 91, they started a short film competition platform. So every year I would submit. Sometimes I would win, sometimes I wouldn't win. But at the time, the Singapore Film Fairs had a very good reputation. So it was Hong Kong, then I think it was Singapore, and you had a lot of international film programmers coming to watch the films from the region and also watch the short films. So in 1994, I made a very violent film called Pain. And they banned the film for public screening, but they allowed it to compete because the judges were all foreigners. And that year, I won this Special Achievement Award. And so I went to the sponsors and said, hey, how about you give me a bit more, and rather than I just do another short film, I'll do a feature. That's how I made Me Pop Man. It was about a mortuary attendant falling in love with a fresh cadaver that comes to his workplace and brings her home. I started making short films decades ago, and then, you know, looking back, and then there's always that element of love. And it's worked its way into my feature films, whether yearning, simple love, a love a child has for his father, joy, in a lot of ways also trying to find different ways of expressing this medium of love.
உங்களுக்கு தண்ணி அடிக்க தான் காசு இருக்கு. அப்புறம் ஃபோன் பில்லுக்கு எங்க காசு இருக்கும்? நீங்க ஒரு குடிகாரன். இதனால தானே அம்மா உங்களை விட்டுட்டு போனாங்க. எனக்கு தெரியும். எப்ப பார்த்தாலும் குடி குடி குடி.
I'm your older brother, okay? Huh? Don't you think I care about you? I'm not gonna let this man just walk all over you and take advantage of you. Huh? Take away your virginity.
I wasn't a virgin, okay? I'm not.
There are these dark undertones of sexuality, and I did sort of explore that with the brother and sister story, which some people picked up on, and it was pretty juicy. I was working with Wong Kim Ho for the script of Be With Me for about 2 years, and the whole concept of the film, I remember from our first meeting, I told him I want the film to end on hope. And I said I wanted to be like 3 stages of love: teenage love, middle-age love, and old-age love. I went for this wedding dinner, and in the table, right, you had Teresa, and I knew that she was blind and deaf, but she was the one really enjoying that dinner, right? She sort of looked at my direction and she said, make a film on hope. I found her so inspirational. She was that missing link in the whole aspect of things. And when she came on board, we shot the film, and the film became the opening film at the Cannes Directors Fortnight. Pretty amazing. At maybe 8 years old, I really got into ballads like Paul Williams. I'm a bit of a mushy person. I have a sister also, Jennifer, who was very much into soundtrack music, the music of Burt Bacharach. They listened to a wide array of music, whether it's the Beach Boys, the Beatles. I just was listening to, I guess, music that was older for my generation. If I'm working on a particular feature film, I may have one song that is identifiable, for that material. I remember for Me Pok Man, and it was the Carpenters, We've Only Just Begun. So yeah, the music was really just part of growing up with a family that loved it.
To some place we both remember. I've been lost in love with you.
Because sometimes I thought I heard melodies in my head, and I try to hum it or what, right? But I'm just totally useless. I can't play anything, right? So it's wonderful that my 4 boys, they actually can play instruments. Now Chris is an incredible, creative melody maker. I remember him as a little boy going to the piano, and he just hits those keys, and there's music in there. I mean, there's something really nice. I think as a parent, I would always show my kids films that I would hold in high regard, and also let them hear the soundtrack of my life, which is basically all the music that I love. So I wanted to have a critical mass, more filmmakers coming out of Singapore. So I did direct for 7 years. Then now, after 7 years, I did Be With Me, and then carried on. I just love the medium. I love film, and whether I produce it, I direct it, or whatever. I mean, as long as people watch the films and we can carry on, I want to go on that way. I think we can go on, and we will never be like a big factory just churning out mass product. But I think we will be able to come out with certain authors and some very dignified and strong, pieces of film language to share with the rest of the world. I think that's exciting, and that's why I've been at it for, it's 21 years now, for feature films. But then I've been doing shorts, so really like 30 over years. Thank you.